Welcome back, Weirds and Weeboos, to the channel Division Doge, where today we got another mid-season patch. Yes, I know, I said I was probably gonna tone it down on the undercards videos last video. Well, I did say that for these updates I might keep doing them, because these are quite easy, obviously. These are barely edited, and, you know, it's just nice and easy and fun. I thought I might skip it if there was a lot of changes, which I looked at, and I'm like, I don't know why this change is being made. Because obviously that might be, oh, well, I haven't played enough recently to really comment on it, so there's no point in me talking about this. However, I looked at the changes before I started recording, and I feel like I have enough to say about the changes that have been made this patch that, yeah, I think it's worth making a video on, even if I haven't got the context of having played the past couple months. So, anyway, well, past month, more like, not couple months. So, we got two new cards, but more importantly, we got a general massive rework of just integrity in general, but we'll get around to that when we get to it. The new cards are Casual Guard 1 and Casual Guard 2, both 5-cost 4/4s. Casual Guard 1 will draw a Royal Guard with Dust and trigger the Dust when you play it. And Casual Guard 2 is a card with Transparency. Again, that means that you can't target this monster at all with anything. You can't, your opponent can't. It makes it basically unkillable until the turn after, at which point it loses it. And in your hand, it costs 4 less if you've played a Royal Guard with a base cost of 9 or more this turn. So essentially, this is a 5/4/4 Transparency most of the time, but if you play one of the big Royal Guards, then it becomes a 1/4/4 Transparency, but only for that turn. So, what do I think about this? Royal Guards is not going to be a meta deck. They just... You don't exactly have the best pieces for like a top tier deck there. However, I will say that it probably went from complete joke to, you could play it and it probably wouldn't like be garbage with these. Especially because this is a 5/4/4 haste that not only draws you a card but triggers its Dust instantly. There are some Royal Guards with some really good Dust. I believe Royal Guard 3 gives all your Royal Guards Candy, and Candy is a very, very good effect to have on any big units. And of course, most Royal Guards are pretty huge. In fact, all of them except these two new ones are very huge. There's also the one that gives them Dodge. So yeah, the instant Dust trigger might actually be significant with this card as long as you don't draw one without a Dust. Oh, it does say with Dust, yeah, as well. So that can't even happen. All right, so yeah, that's basically guaranteed. So this one looked good to me. This one not so much. I do get 1/4/4 Transparency. Yo, that's busted. But the fact you have to play it with a 9-drop that doesn't have an instant effect is kind of nasty. Don't get me wrong, this card certainly could pop off. It's a common, which means you can run 3 of them. So yes, you could live in the world where you just, I don't know, you're going first, you pass your first turn, you pass your second turn, you pass your third turn, you got like 7 gold then, right? And then it would be 5 gold your next turn, I believe, yeah. So you get 12. And then you just go Royal Guard, the 7/10 Royal Guard that costs 9. I've forgotten what the effect of that one is, but the one that's a 7/10, just because higher health matters more. And then drop 3 of these, and that could be an instant game win if they don't have a board clear. That is super, super powerful. But outside of that situation, and that of course is the perfect situation, yeah, I'm not so sure about this card. Don't get me wrong, Transparency is terrifying, but it's mostly terrifying on something that's a significant threat if it's not dealt with. This really doesn't threaten much except the 4 damage its attack has. So, and for 5, that's obviously not a crazy amount of damage. So yeah, I've got to say the second one isn't really impressing me. You might still run it anyway, just because, you know, if you're running a Royal Guard deck, there isn't that much Royal Guard synergy to work with, so you just run all of it. So maybe you still do run it. And again, if you high roll with this, it does push advantage really hard, but it feels like you have to high roll really hard for this to actually be worth it, and it's probably not worth it in the end. However, as I say, Casual Royal Guard 1, this actually looks like a good card to me. Well, not good, but it's a good card in an archetype which is not made to be very competitive. But this is definitely one of the better cards in that archetype by the looks of things. Anyway, in terms of the balancing, Tombstone got its stats increased. I'm not going to lie, this probably won't change much considering the stats of this card on its own isn't the thing that's scary about it, it's the ability. But if I'm completely honest, I was under the impression that Tombstone, if anything, was a bit strong as it was. So I'm surprised they're giving it +1/+2. Sorry, not +1/+2, just +1/+1. But still, like, I don't know. That just It seemed to me like it was relatively popular to just run normal mid-range decks that ran things like Rock or just big 7 cost or 6 cost like Dusts, and then just use Tombstone to bring them back. It's not like they got an awesome epic like long game control win condition with it. It's just simply it's a deck that runs big units with dust effects and then brings them back for cheap with Tombstone. So yeah, that seemed I saw a lot of decks like that generally, and those decks seem to be doing quite well. So I mean, again, that was a while ago. Maybe the meta's changed. Maybe that's why. But that catches me off guard. Queen painting went down by 1. Absolutely necessary. If you do not know about queen painting, well, you're about to find out. Queen painting was the card that I would call the worst in the entire game. It used to cost 12 and now it costs 11. It probably is still pretty garbage, but like maybe I at least wouldn't call it the worst card in the game now. Maybe, but even then, maybe I still would. Okay, so the reason why this card is so bad is because, okay, yes, it does have haste and it's a 6/8 and all that, but obviously you're paying 11 and you used to be paying 12 for this. That's more than 10, which means that you cannot get enough money to play this card in a single turn. You have to make sure you didn't spend all your money last turn to carry over money to the next turn, and then spend all your money plus the carried over money to be able to play the queen painting. So you want this effect to be something huge for something so expensive that you require 2 turns to be able to play it. And the effect really ain't that huge. Its effect is support, which is whenever an ally monster attacks, it turns into Spamton Painting with the same base stats as Queen Painting. And Spamton Painting is the same as Queen Painting, except it doesn't have haste. Instead, at the end of every turn, it gives every ally monster, aside from itself, Taunt. And of course, it can transform back into Queen Painting. So, this card is very confusing, because it just makes me think, like, what is the idea here? Because giving mass taunt to all your units isn't really super valuable, especially for such an expensive cost. The only thing that is valuable, really, here is every time it transforms, if it was damaged, the damage goes away. That, yeah, that's pretty good. Nothing else about this is very valuable, and considering how understated and overpriced it is, I think it's probably still the worst card in the game. But yeah, they're going in the right direction, buffing it. Honestly, I would put it at 10 if you wanted to see play. I know that sounds like, oh, it's just 1 less, but the thing is, at 10, you can then play it in 1 turn. Like, you can have 0 gold, and then earn your 10 gold in the next turn, if you're in the late game, and then just play it, and you don't have to wait 2 turns. At that point, I don't think it becomes good, but I think it becomes playable. I think this probably becomes good when it becomes like a 9-drop, maybe. But then I don't know if I'd want this card to be good, because if this card was good, it would probably be really annoying. It would probably just constantly be healing itself up and blocking you from killing it with taunts. It'd be super frustrating. So, yeah. Anyway, Jevil got a buff, quite simply. Why? Okay, there we go. They cost 1 less now. Yeah, I have no complaints here. At first I was thinking, I mean, I like Jevil, but did they need the buff? But then I think, yeah, it is just 1 less. And again, if you're jumping from 11 to 10, that 1 less is very significant. But if you're jumping just from 13 to 12, yeah, it's reasonable. Jevil is a really fun card and really flexible, so I'm definitely up for giving it any buffs that might make it more playable competitively, because I think it's a good thing to have Jevil be a popular card. Anyway, Politician Bear also received a buff. This is interesting to me because, now to be fair, when I first saw this card, it used to cost 6. And when I first saw it, it didn't strike me as a very good card. I thought it looked kind of, not bad, but just underwhelming. Just one of those cards that when you get to making a deck, you'd put it in, and then as you're, like, putting more cards in and your deck gets full, you realise you have to take something out, and you realise this is the card you have to take out. That's the kind of impression I got from this card. However, I actually ran into a lot of people using it to like later in the game. Like again, I haven't played in the past month or so, but like 2, 3 months ago, I was seeing it a lot, and people were actually doing well with it. So I'm kind of surprised it got buffed, but I never really played with this card before, and maybe those people were just kind of getting lucky. But yeah, it seemed like it was relatively popular already. Either way, I don't think it's going to become broken as a 5-drop. I'm fine with this, but just kind of surprised that they thought it needed a buff. Anyway, Seat of Gods, which of course got reworked, has now gotten buffed, so the reworked version's a bit better. It now costs 4 instead of 5. And again, it's a taunt now with magic. Switch, give -1 cost to cards with 9 or more base cost in your deck or hand, and delay draw a card. So you can either make all your expensive cards you haven't drawn yet cheaper, or all the cards that are expensive in your hand cheaper, and you get a card draw with it. I'm interested to see if this is significant, because honestly, even though it's clearly much worse than the original effect of this card, this effect doesn't seem bad necessarily to me. It actually does look quite potentially strong given the right deck, just because you get mass discounts on units that might be very important for your deck but very hard to play because of their costs. And even if it's only 1 cost, you can run 3 of these, so it can add up to -3 cost by the end. And again, if that minus whatever cost is getting a card that costs more than 10 down to that 10 or less gold threshold, that's actually pretty huge. As well as that, it's a nice cheap taunt which keeps you alive, and of course it cycles your deck. So I can see why it needed a buff, because it definitely isn't a super significant effect. But like at the same time, looking at the effects this does have, even though none of them are huge, it's 1 card, it's just a 3/4 taunt, it's just -1 cost. The different things you're getting here, cheap taunt, card draw, but not too much card draw, and discounts on expensive cards, all seem like lots of things that control decks want in filler cards that help them get through the first few turns. So yeah, I'm interested to see if with this buff this card becomes much more popular, because yeah, I could see it. This card definitely seems promising to me. It's just a question of how much that -1 cost is worth it, because it is only -1. But anyway, Task Painting received a buff, which is pretty fair considering I don't think I really saw many people playing this card. Again, it's one of those cards, nothing wrong with it, it's fine, it's just when you come to making a deck, it's usually cut. Like, it's usually you put it in, and then you keep putting more cards in, and you realise, oh, I really should be running this card, but I'm out of cards, and you realise this is what you got to take out. Anyway, it used to be a 3/4, now it's a 4/4, pretty justified. Yeah. Actually, I don't really have anything else to say about that. I just thought this card was slightly underpowered, and they just gave it +1 attack, but I think that's all it needs, and it's more valuable on a haste, so yeah. Nice Cream Guy. This is an interesting change. I'm behind it. Nice Cream Guy has gone from a 6 cost to a 4 cost, although it's also made his health go down from 6 to 4. This is pretty good in my opinion. Nice Cream Guy, it was kind of interesting. I actually did realise, just before I kind of stopped playing, that this card I used to see all the time when I was new to undercards. And I remember just passing it in the collection, like, shortly before I kind of stopped playing, and I was like, wait, what? What? I've just realised I haven't seen this card in years. And it's kind of funny because, I was so used to it being a staple of every deck I ran into. Now, I'm not sure if that's because it was actually strong or just because when I played ages ago I was low rank and it was popular at low ranks or something. But it definitely feels weird now that this card that used to be so common in just every aggressive or tempo-ish deck just seemed to disappear. And so I'm definitely behind buffing it. It definitely felt weird. Like, I get that with certain cards you can do a lot with just +1/+1, but it definitely felt weird that you had this 6-drop that only gave +1/+1. Like, yes, you could give it to multiple monsters, but you don't have that many board slots, so best case scenarios you get +3/+3 in total. So if you're really going for that best case scenario, if you're really high rolling, you're getting +3/+3 with a 3/6, which just adds up to a 6/6/9, which isn't that great actually. So yeah, now obviously it can be better than that. It can live after that first turn and then give even more boss and become more than that. But it's kind of a stretch. So yeah, this is absolutely justified. The lower cost will definitely make it a lot more viable. I'm not sure if it actually becomes super good. Not that it's bad, but I'm just thinking, especially since Grilby got buffed last patch and Grilby was already good. I just think, do you just not just run Grilby and not an Ice Cream guy? But maybe people want to run more than just 2 Grilbies, and so they run an Ice Cream guy anyway. An Ice Cream guy doesn't really provide the same burst damage, but he does provide the same kind of tempo at a cheaper cost, but with more work to do to get it to work. Anyway, Spider Bakery got +1 attack. This is the one where you... Yeah, it's this one. Fair. Actually, don't have much to say about that. I don't think that changes much. Mad Dragon got +1 attack. Is this the one I think it is? Oh no. Okay, so like... I don't know, it's probably fine, because this card... Okay, I hate this card, because I feel like this card is not actually good, but it feels like it's overpowered as hell when it starts destroying you, because like... When this card works, it just wipes your entire board without dying itself, and just... It feels so unfair. But like... 90% of this card, 90% of the time this card does not work, and it's not worth all the effort. But like, God, I'm not happy about this. It's probably balanced, it's probably fine. I hate that card. Delete it from the game. Anyway, this is kind of terrifying, actually. Temmies have been changed back to how they were originally. Temmie 2 now has charge. Now, this is probably fine for now, but just be wary, Jesus, because, like... Okay, this is scary, because... And again, I'll re-explain this concept. You all know burst damage is scary. That can hit your face directly, instantly, without having to wait any turns and all that. You know that's really scary. But the thing with it that makes it so hard to balance is it gets exponentially more powerful the more of it you have. And the way that works is, I mean, it kind of makes a lot of sense when you think about it. What's the point of doing nothing but taking your opponent's health and nothing else unless their health hits 0? I mean, if you can't get their health to 0, just dealing damage to their health bar and not doing anything on the board or to your cards or to your gold is literally doing nothing unless you can get their health to hit 0. So, that means that the more you get, the more likely you are to get their health to hit 0. I know it sounds really simple, but like, some people still can look at cards and not understand why having a lot of burst damage, even if it's overpriced, is super overpowered. Like, if there was a 10 cost deal 10 damage in this game, like there is in Hearthstone, like Pyroblast, you could say, well, that's balanced, right? Because we have, like, deal 4 damage for 3. This is dealing 10 for 10. That's actually a worse deal than Punishment or whatever. But then a 10 damage deal 10 would be crazy overpowered, because it doesn't matter how quote-unquote overpriced the damage is. If it's enough to get your opponent to 0 health without them being able to do anything, then it's got infinite value. It's literally a win the game button. So, yeah. So, the reason why this is scary is because now the burst damage of Temmie decks is borderline doubled. Because yes, it is inefficient, yes, it's bad for your tempo and all that, but you now have 4 burst damage per Temmie in total, which adds up to 12. You then would probably run Ice Caps as well in a deck that runs this kind of stuff, and then that's another 9. That's 21 burst damage. That's like, you don't even have to run it, like, just run another 2 Cop Undines, and you've got a total of 29 burst damage in an aggressive deck. Yes, that is in your entire deck, and yes, if you have to go that much through your deck, then you're probably playing too slow. But still, the thought that you could have an aggressive deck that doesn't have to sacrifice the quality of its cards to be able to run 29 whole burst damage is really scary. Not to mention that if you're running a full-on Temmie deck with Temmie Statue, it can buff both of the Temmies, and giving them all +1/+1 each would mean it's not just 12 damage, it's now 18. Yeah, it's a lot of burst damage. So yeah, Is this a really bad change? Probably not, because I will say they have been very safe recently about making sure there's not too much instant burst damage in the game. So they probably got enough like design space to let this exist without it breaking the game. But they're walking on thin ice, I think, with this one. I think they couldn't push this much further before this becomes a bit of a problem. And who knows, maybe it will be a problem right now just because of some combo I haven't thought of, or some interaction with some of the popular decks that makes this actually really favoured against them. I don't know. Anyway, I've lost my place now. Oh, DT Extractor. So yeah, there's also a mini rework of Amalgamates in this patch. So DT Extractor got improved. It now still shuffles your hand into your deck and adds a copy of each unique amalgamate in your dust pile. I think it didn't used to be unique, but either way. But the main thing is that now when you get those amalgamates back, they all cost one less and have +1/+1. This isn't a crazy change, however, I definitely am behind this change because, well, okay, the reason I shouldn't really speak on DT Extractor because I have to admit I have never played this card. It was added at a time where I wasn't playing, and then when I came back to the game and got it eventually, there was just so many other decks that I wanted to work on, and, Amalgamates wasn't really the top of my list of decks I want to try. Especially because I already knew going in this card wasn't exactly great just by looking at it and seeing that no one was playing it. So, the impression I get here is that the previous version of DT Extractor, which didn't give this buff, was really, really bad. Probably because the fact that it just refilled your hand with amalgamates just meant that the amalgamate decks could keep value for longer, but it didn't actually mean that they'd get better tempo, really. And amalgamates would be a tempo deck. Now, that value isn't exactly useless, but really, what's it helping you with? It could give you a bit of a better shot against control decks, which you would be likely to lose against as a mid-range deck, because Amalgamates tends to be mid-range. But even then, like, control is your worst matchup. Like, I think even with this, you probably run out of resources eventually, and the control deck just beats you in the long game. So just adding all these cards to your hand just kind of feels like, does it really help you? If you're against aggro and you're actually losing, even though usually mid-range is favored against them, then these cards don't help. And against combo, yeah, those cards don't help. You need tempo to get onto the board to pressure them or kill them before they can get their combo. So, yeah, it feels like this does nothing but make you slightly less likely to lose against control, but still you're probably going to lose. So yeah, anyway, the fact that it now gives them -1 cost and +1/+1 at least means there's some tempo to this card now, which means that you can actually use it to make a bit of an aggressive push. That being said, probably still pretty bad. Honestly, I might even just recommend they rework this card entirely. I don't know, it just, it ain't it, Chief, is it? And Memory Head got buffed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really racking my brain on what it was last patch, because this card has changed a lot in the last few patches. Well, no. What it does has remained very similar, but the exact wording of it has changed so many times in the last few months that, like, I'm really struggling to remember what the last thing it says was. But either way, right now, it has Loop 1. Again, that means that when you play it for the first time, it adds a copy of it to your hand with -1 loop. Once it hits 0, then you won't get any more copies, so this just loops once. Yeah, and you get the copy stats become 3/3 instead of 2/3. So yeah, I think this card didn't used to be a loop. I think it just used to add the 2/3/3 to your hand. I think that's what it was the last patch. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I don't get why this is a buff. I think this is just a wording change. Unless, is there an interaction with loop? I don't know if there really is. Whatever. Maybe there's some kind of card that has loop synergy. I don't think there was, though. Either way, Evil Eye got reworked. I'm fine with that. This used to be a very weird card. Evil Eye used to have Turbo, reveal a random card in the opponent's hand, and Magic, deal 1 damage if it killed a monster, heal 2. And it was a 3/3/3. It was a decent card, but it felt really weird, because, like, the Turbo was, like, really not that valuable. because you only got to see one card. Whereas if you just ran normal eye, not evil eye, you could see the opponent's entire hand and also increase the cost of something and also get better stats. So you would still use Evil Eye if you wanted to kill something and get health, but if you wanted to see your opponent's hand, you would just use Eye, not Evil Eye. Anyway, yeah, now it is a 3/3/4, which when played and then at the start of every turn afterwards will add Spying to your hand, which I actually have to remind myself of the exact wording of this, because Spying is a token spell given to you by an artifact that no one uses, except me on very rare occasions. Look at all cards in the opponent's hand and choose one and increase its cost by 1. Okay, I thought that's what it was. And it's free. So, honestly, I've just realised Evil Eye has essentially become the new Eye. It's like Eye, except it's a 3/4 instead of a 4/3, and it can trigger its effect whenever it wants. It can like store them up instead of having to use it instantly, and it can do it at the start of every turn as well. So this is basically just a buff to Eye, and they put it on Evil Eye, which is a little bit weird, but yeah. I actually really like the look of this card. I'm not gonna lie. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's meta breaker or anything, but this is a really good filler card. And I know I'm calling it a filler card, but there's a lot of decks that need filler cards. There's a lot of decks that just have a whole bunch of expensive high synergy stuff, but they need cards that they can actually afford to play at the start of the game so the hand doesn't get clogged and they don't get bowled over by decks that play faster. And this, it just seems like a really nice card to put in the low end of those kind of decks. So that they're playing something early on in the game, they don't get completely outpaced, they have something to spend their gold on, and what they get is good stats, gives them an idea of what their opponent's playing, and even gives them the opportunity to potentially mess with their plays. I really like that. And it generates constant value if the opponent doesn't deal with it. The only downside to it is that it doesn't have any kind of form of taunt or healing, which those kind of decks really appreciate with these kind of cards. But it does have a pseudo taunt, because if your opponent doesn't kill it, you will continuously get more spyings. Now, yes, one spying isn't that big a deal, but 3, 4, yeah, at that point it actually could become quite a problem for an aggro deck if their cards are being made so much more expensive by all these spyings. They will have to kill it eventually. It's definitely not as good as having taunt, but it's kind of close to it. So, yeah, I think that's, I think Evil Eye looks like a decent filler card now. As for Normal Eye, it's unfortunately now not so applicable in multiple decks because it's now more focused on Amalgamate Synergy, but the Amalgamate Synergy does look decent. It is a 2-cost 3/2 now that looks at 3 other different Amalgamates in your deck and adds a copy of one to the top of your deck with +1/+1. I am realising, when I first looked at this, I just had the typical reaction of, oh yeah, so this is for Amalgamate Synergy. It looks like a good card for Amalgamate decks, but Amalgamate decks are bad, so it's probably not going to be that great, but if Amalgamate decks are good, it's going to be good. But I'm realising now, this could be another one like my opinion on pieces, where the way you play this might not be put it in an Amalgamate deck. It might be find an Amalgamate that you would really like to use in a deck just for its ability, not for any Amalgamate Synergy, and then just run Eyes to that Amalgamate or create copies of that Amalgamate. It's not an exact copy, unfortunately, but if you want copies, that is a possibility. Because this is then just a 2-cost 3/2 tutor that also provides a small amount of buffing, which is pretty good. Very, very cheap. Anyway, Chaos Blaster. Well, anyway, Fly got an interesting rework. Well, I say interesting, kind of scary, honestly. Well, a little scary, not terrifying. Okay, so this is a fine rework because Fly, as it was previously, was kind of a sussy card. Fly was a 2-cost 1/1 charge, which had Shock, Silence this, and Summon another Fly. And that was a very weird one, because it was garbage in the vast majority of decks because it was paying 2 to deal 1 damage. But it was scary because theoretically you could assemble the Wombo combo and find a way to infinitely continue to cast more spells that trigger Shock while killing the silenced copies, so you get an infinite source of constant burst damage. It would basically never happen because you'd require so much setup, everything would have to go right, you'd have to have more than enough gold to deal with all that. it it wasn't actually a good card because of that. It wasn't a broken card, but like it always had the potential to be broken, and it was another one of those cards where I look at it and I'm like, isn't this card always either garbage or the second it's good it breaks the game? So I'm glad they've changed it. However, the changed version is also a little bit scary, although it's definitely better. Um, Definitely looks like a better card to play competitively as well. So you 4-cost 3/1 charge, delay, attack the monster in front of this. It's probably still a little bit on the weaker side, but I'm just thinking. As long as they don't have taunt, and you could easily run taunt counters in your deck, this is kind of like a 4-cost deal 3 damage to face and 3 damage to a monster. I think that's really good, actually. The only problem is that it's it would require you to have to put it in front of the monster, and that sometimes isn't possible. And it would require there's no taunts in the way. I could actually see a decent amount of decks running this card that are just aggressive, just because it's even more burst damage, and it can give them an instant answer to something on the board before it pops off and does something scary. I don't know, like, I know it's terrible stats, but again, burst damage, it's terrifying. Like, again, Ice Cap has consistently been one of the most powerful aggro cards in the game, and it's literally just a 3/3/1 charge. I think paying a 1 gold tax on that, just to deal, to get the ability to also be able to deal 3 damage to a monster the second you play it, yeah, I think that's actually probably still good. Um, Especially because, again, it's exponential in value. The more burst damage you have, the better it gets. I'm not sure. I don't think. I feel like it's a stretch to say any deck would run 3 of these, because you would be running 3 ice caps before you run any flies. But I know there's a lot of decks that already run 3 ice caps that probably wouldn't mind sneaking in a couple flies as well. Royal Guard 1 got changed so that it doesn't give taunt anymore, it gives armor. I'm not going to bother looking it up just because that's a really quick and easy one. There's not much to say, it just makes Royal Guards a little bit better. Taunt was super weak, armor would be more effective. Boxed Body, I can't be bothered looking it up because it's a token, but it's one of the things, it's one of the parts of the Ultima Thrash machine. It now has 1 attack, and it deals 2 damage instead of 4 when it dies. I think that's a good change. I think it was kind of annoying having a 0 attack monster with transparency, but that was just sitting there, and at any moment it might go off and deal 4 damage, and it felt like it stalled out games a lot. So having the ability to actually attack with it, but with the downside that it doesn't deal as much damage, I think that's fair. And Noelle technically got nerfed, but it's not really going to change much. Essentially, they just added a 10-cost limit to the spell that she can cast, and that's mostly because I mentioned Integrity is getting reworks. We're about to get to that. And Integrity got a brand new spell that costs 12 that would be pretty fucking busted if Noelle could cast it. So anyway, Crime Scene has gone down from 8 to 7. That seems fair. Like, when they nerfed this thing all the way down to 4 health, that did seem a little harsh to me. So, yeah. That being said, even though that nerf seemed harsh, I think this buff balances things out very nicely. Again, I haven't had the opportunity to play with this card at all yet, though, so I could be completely wrong, but that's the feeling I get. This seems like a decent place for it. Campfire. Now costs 2. Glad to see it. I like this card, but it's just not good, is the problem. That's the problem with it. Okay, goodbye. Is it still up there? Oh, it finally went away. Alright, okay. So yeah, Campfire. Yeah, I really like this card, but the truth was it was garbage. It's absolutely sad to think they thought that a 3-cost that gives +3/+3 to monsters not even on the board but in your hand randomly, and heals 4 health also randomly, that can't even heal your face, it can only heal your monsters. Yeah, best case scenario for this was that you were getting 3/7 in stats for 3, and that's a best case scenario where you have 3 hand buff targets you actually want in your hand. All those things are things you're about to play anyway, and you get the maximum 4 healing off of this. That's the best case scenario. Because yeah, if you can't afford to play the things in your hand, then you can't even really think of it as 3/3 stats because it's 3/3 stats that comes in late, so it's worse than a normal 3/3 stats. So yes, now it costs 2. That's better. Probably still a little weak, but I definitely still want to try it because I think this is a very fun card. Maybe if I come back to this game, I do wonder if this is good enough. If it needs more buffs, but if it does, then like I don't think they can make it cost 1. I don't think that'll make it good. I think once you get it down to 2, making it any cheaper isn't realistically going to change much. Especially because lowering it down to 1 could in fact potentially be a nerf to it because then it can't trigger shock. So yeah. Anyway, Ultimate Heal got buffed. You'll love to see it. It's a beautiful card. It now costs 2 instead of 4. That could be very fun to play around with. I really can't comment on whether Ultimate Heal is good or not now, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, now we're getting to the main attraction. The Integrity spells. Cloning has completely changed to a 7 cost that summons 2 copies of a non-DT monster and sets their base stats to 3/3. Quite nice. A little bit spooky that it's 2 copies on a chosen target. Might be a little strong, we'll see. I mean, Wereform proved itself to be a very strong and scary card, as it was as a 7-drop that required you to already have something on the board and 2 things next to it. However, Wereform, of course, didn't set their base stats to 3/3. This, I don't know. I get the vibes this card's probably a little bit OP, but I'm not complaining because it also seems like a very fun card. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, I'm not thinking... I don't know why. I'm struggling to think exactly what you would copy with this off the top of my head. But there would definitely be targets. There's definitely enough cards in the game that get really scary if you can get a whole bunch of copies of them. I don't know, I'm thinking with dust effects right now, and I'm not thinking of that many off the top of my head. I'm not going to stall this video because I'm thinking about them because it's been too long for me to try and remember a whole bunch of good targets off the top of my head. Fortune has been changed again. So... I'm not gonna lie, I never really played Fortune, like, just any version of it, really. I didn't realise it was so good back when it was so good, where you just... I think it used to be, it was a 6 cost that gave you 7 gold, and that's literally all it did, and it didn't look that good to me, but then it turned out it was actually really, really busted, and it got nerfed multiple times. I think that was it. Hard to remember because it's got changed so many times. But I never played with it, though, so... I can't comment on how busted it was, but I heard it was very busted. I'm kind of surprised they're going back to that idea again. When they changed it to a 2 cost, which draws a 4, 5, 6, and 7 cost. Oh no, it was 5, 6, 7, and 8 cost, I think. And reduces the cost of all 4 of those cards by 1. I thought that would probably stay like that, because, that's quite interesting, quite funny if you can get it to work. Not necessarily super strong, because it's a lot of effort to get it to work. But, as I say, fun, interesting, probably not going to be overpowered unless the tutoring becomes too good or the card draw becomes too good. But again, card draws are already really good on just about every card in undercards, so probably not. But then, apparently they want to turn it back to this again. Which, to be fair, I don't think I saw anyone playing the old Fortune, as in the 2-cost Fortune I was just talking about. But, I don't know, I feel like it wasn't like the card could never be good, it just needed more cards that you actually want to tutor with it. Either way. So yeah, Fortune is now a 4 cost with Loop 2, and it says delay, earn 4 gold, and give the copy -1 cost. So the first time you play it, you just pay 4 to do nothing, but then you pay 3 to gain 4 gold, and pay 3 to gain 4 gold again. In total you spend 10... No, sorry about that. In total you spend 12 gold... No, it was 10. You spend 10 gold to get 12 gold in total. So, yeah, overall, it's a benefit. It earns you money in the end. And I just realised this is actually really good for decks that need to trigger shock. I need to look at shock effects after this. Anyway, Expulsion got a change. It's similar. It's a 6 cost now instead of a 5 cost, and instead of sending a monster back to its owner's hand, it sends it to the top of its owner's deck, and if you targeted one of your own monsters, you earn your 6 gold back and play this for free. Still obviously takes the card out of your hand though. But that does mean you have some interesting potential applications where you can recur your own monsters for free. Maybe that's good? Depends how powerful the magic is on it. I could see you using that on tombstones. Is that good? It's on the top of its owner's deck as well. It's not on the bottom or a random position. So yeah, that might be good actually. Either way, yeah, not much to say about this. I like it. It's a good change in my opinion. I mean, it's slightly stronger. I feel like the old expulsion was mostly fine, but it just was kind of frustrating because sometimes it depended a little bit on the deck. Some decks it just didn't do anything. Some decks would just not have enough cards in their hand, but have more than enough gold a lot of the time. And so if you just put something back in their hand, they just play it again, and it doesn't even really slow them down much. Which felt really bad for 5. But then a lot of decks that struggle to empty their hands, you could mill them, you could essentially get it as a free kill if their hand was already full. You could really mess with people by using expulsion. So I'm glad that now the variance is a little bit less crazy. Wear form also got changed, and I'm not gonna lie, this is a fair change, but it does make me think, what do you use this for now? So Wear form is now a 5-cost spell that chooses an ally non-DT monster, and you summon a Werewire that catches it. And the Werewire is, of course, a 5-cost 4/3 haste, and when it dies, it will release the caught monster. So this is definitely more in flavor, and it's, I actually expected Wereform was going to be an effect like this when I first read the name. I don't know, just, This card to me I don't see the application of it, I guess. Because it feels like you're just paying a 5/4/3 haste a lot of the time. Because I don't see how catching a monster you already have on the board and then putting it back on the board afterwards is going to change much. Like, it can put them back to full health, and I guess it can move them. But those are some relatively niche applications. Doesn't seem like there's anything super high value you can get off this unless I'm missing something kind of obvious. And if you can't get anything super high value off of this, then you're paying 5 to deal 4 damage, essentially. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm missing the point entirely on this one, but it seems really weak to me. We'll see. Break has been removed from the game and is now replaced with Mercenary Hire. Break used to be a 0-cost spell which would return a monster to your hand and give you 20% of its cost back. Kind of insane it's gone. I think it's literally been here since the beginning. I mean, at least since as soon as I was first playing this game. Kind of insane it's actually gone now. My god. Well, anyway, Mercenary Hire is now a 6-cost spell that summons the cheapest non-DT monster from your deck. If it costs 6 or less, give it haste, else paralyze it. So, yeah, you can pay 6 to instantly get a 6-drop from your deck and give it haste, if you built your deck like that. Or you can summon something huge with it, but it can't attack for a turn. I like cards like this. I am just thinking, though, is this going to be busted with certain cards? Because you can literally summon anything with this for 6. What would be some ones that are like really, really scary? So Placeholder Chris was the first one I thought. That might, to be fair, be the best one. It might not be as bad as I think. Because Placeholder Chris definitely seems like the most terrifying one from this. You pay 6, you get a 4/10, and yes, it can't attack instantly, but anything that attacks gets +2/+2. That sounds very scary. Oh yeah, we're already getting down to the 10s, so yeah, maybe it's not that bad. Queen Painting. Ooh. Wait, okay, we might have a deck here that actually makes Queen Painting not a meme. What I'm thinking is, just now, if you happen to have 2 monsters ready to attack on board, which might sound like a lot, but with Iced Butterfly, the 1-drop that summons a 1/1 when you played it, and it is itself a 1/1, you could easily play some really cheap monsters that the opponent isn't likely to want to kill just because they don't have that much attack in the first place, and then use that to double trigger support. And that not only works really well with Placeholders Chris, but also if you have Queen Painting, it gets summoned, but then it can't attack because it's paralyzed even though it has haste. But then you can use the support, transform it into Spamton Painting, which means that it now doesn't have paralyzed anymore, and then use the second attack to transform it back into Queen Painting, and now it doesn't have it's not paralyzed anymore, and it has the haste. Is that a meme? Oh wait, no, you couldn't use it with Ice Butterflies because then it would brick the spell. Yeah, probably a meme. I think what's awkward about this is, yeah, okay, so it's probably balanced because what's awkward about what I'm thinking here is that, well, actually, mercenary. This spell. This spell obviously requires you, if you want to high roll with it and summon giant stuff off of it, it requires you to run absolutely no units that cost less than that amount. And the reason why that's troublesome is because Integrity doesn't have any spells that put units on the board. Like, if this was Justice, you could at least use Vasebreaker. If this was Bravery, you'd be fine. You'd use, like, Frogget Ambush. But in Integrity, how do you survive the early game when you're not allowed to run anything that costs, like, less than 10 or 12 or whatever? So yeah, okay, this is probably... I really want this card to be good. It's probably just alright then. I thought it might be really good for a second. It's probably just alright. Okay, just a moment, I'm sorry. I know I'm derailing this again, but I have to know. If high rolling with this does look like it's not a good idea, then we need to take a look at the 6 drops. Okay, the Warrior, that's a good one, obviously. Oh, wait, actually, the Warrior is amazing. Okay, so the Warrior is probably what you wanted to hit with this. That's one. Traffic Card's actually... You know, Traffic Card isn't a good card on its own, but with this, it's not too bad. So, Traffic Card is what? No close. You could do Sands, but I don't think that's actually that great. Snoring Monsters, because it gives it haste. Okay. Yeah, okay, it definitely seems like you should be going for the 6 drops with these. Plated Pipe would be fine. Sad Dragon with a dodge. Yeah, that's kind of scary. Malix is just good stats. This might even be... that might even be a little bit scary. Lesser Dog is obviously just a good card in general, and it costs 6, so that would be a good drop. Yeah, it looks like this won't trigger its delay, so this one isn't really what you'd be looking for. You could also use this to instantly put a Dad Dragon on the board, but nah, that's not very good because this works well if you've got swarms of little units, and again, you have to make 6 your cheapest unit. Right, yeah, that does seem like about the end of how useful this gets. Alright then. Well, anyway, all that aside, yep, seems like a decent card still. I like it. Definitely like the idea. This kind of makes me laugh. Dispatch, which I think has only been in the game for like a month and a bit, has already been removed from the game entirely. Dispatch, for the multiple people who are watching in the future, I'm sure thousands shall be watching in the future, the historians of undercards who are trying to discover what was this mysterious card Dispatch that just disappeared one day. It was a 1-cost epic spell that Integrity got. In the same update, they added a whole bunch of other new epic spells for souls, like Ice Shock for patience and all that, and Ultimate Heal for kindness. And it would burn up to 2 generated cards in your hand, to deal 3 damage to a random enemy monster for each. And yeah, I didn't see anyone play it. I didn't play much that patch, to be fair, but I think it would probably be the same reason I thought it wouldn't be good, which would be that you have to get 2 generated cards in your hand, which is actually a little bit of a tall order, and then what you get after all that is 6 untargeted damage that can't go face, and you have to spend 3 cards to do it. Yeah, that's that would only really be useful in a super aggressive deck to get through taunts, but then that super aggressive deck probably doesn't want to slow down to build up 2 generated cards in their hand. So yeah, it wasn't a very practical card. Makes sense it got replaced, and it got replaced by a new card called Silly Strings, which is very straightforward, but I actually do like it a lot. So 12 costs, kills an enemy non-determination monster, and adds a copy to the monster you kill to the top of your deck that costs 1. I really like this because this this is going to like encourage a lot of kind of outside the box thinking, and I think this is just generally going to be a mainstay spell for integrity. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like you run this literally like in every integrity deck that goes long enough that you want to pay 12 for something. Because like you get to kill a monster, and obviously if that monster is pretty big, you practically get to play it for free next turn. There are definitely some targets on which you could do some insane stuff with that, especially because if you're running this card, you're already probably a long game value deck, and you're probably targeting legendaries, and there's a fair share of legendaries that your opponent might be running that you yourself might really value. In fact, a decent example is, to be fair, this isn't the best example, I suppose, because it's not so great to kill this, but Alphys. Say you're running, I don't know, well, you probably wouldn't be running the heroine, but say you're running Kara or something. Actually, Kara's not that great with duplication. You know what? This isn't actually a great example. I was going to say you're running like Kara in your deck for your long game win condition, and then the enemy plays an Alphys, and you kill the Alphys, get your own Alphys, play your Alphys, get Royal Determination, and get double the Determination cards. But I suppose there's not much point in duplicating Kara except just to get another big 10/10 that kills something when it's played. And I suppose, I mean, you can use it with Angel of Death, but Angel of Death isn't as good, obviously. Okay, maybe that's not as great an example as I thought, but definitely there are. I mean, just here we go again. Well, it doesn't have to be legendary, but let me look legendary at first. Placeholder Chris would obviously be a huge hit. Asriel Dreamer. Yeah, that would be a hit, all right. Jesus, Jevil, that's a good hit. Asgore in the right situation. Metaton Neo probably would be a good hit as well. Although usually the enemies kills their own Metaton Neo before Bacon Queen. Not many people play it, but if they do play it, then yeah, that's a good hit. There's a lot of good hits here, obviously, and I mean, again, even if you hit something relatively small, it could still be. Well, you could think of it like this: killing an entire monster in one card is worth, well, 6 gold technically, because Justice Headshot. I know that comes with a silence, but obviously the silence doesn't add up to much. And obviously Headshot is one of the better cards in the game, so yeah. Anyway, so we'll just call it at 6. Now even then, I think you could even say that killing a monster is worth more than 6, depending on what soul you are. If you're in a soul with no real way to instantly kill a monster, then killing a monster becomes more valuable. So I would even say 7 is fine, but let's just say 6 for now. That means as long as your card that you're killing costs 7 or more, so you're getting a discount of 6 or more afterwards, then you're getting your values worth from this card. If you're killing a Shawn with this, that is absolutely worthwhile. So, yeah. Anyway, was that the last one? Yeah, it was the last one out of these. Final Gambit had its cost increase from 7 to 13. Just a minute. Wait, why is nothing coming up? Oh. Ultimate Thrash, Ultimate Fusion, there we go. That's this. That's had its cost increase to 13. I imagine just because this is practically a guaranteed win the game button, and I guess people were probably having too much of an easy time getting to it. I still don't know what's going on when it comes to Ultimate Thrash. Like, I have literally not seen a single person successfully get Final Gambit and actually play Ultimate Thrash yet. But apparently it's a really good DT. Like, everyone's telling me it's a really good DT. So, I mean, I'll buy it. I don't have the card yet. I can't play and find out. But, you know, to me, it's like, I never see it work. I mean, does it work? Oh, whoops. The final balance change for the spells, though, is actually kind of insane. Hypergoner got nerfed to a 13 cost. I'm not going to say this is unfair. Hypergoner is an absolute premium card that will probably still see play at 13. But man, does that feel, like, harsh, even though it's probably fair. Like, that's definitely going to shake things up, because, I mean, yeah, Hypergoner is like a game-defining card, really. It's one of the most important cards in the game, I would say, and now it's probably still very important, but not exactly an auto-include in Determination anymore. Well, auto-include for decks that would even go that far into the game, I mean. You know, I thought I'd have more to say about this, and it's such a huge and shocking change, but yeah, I think that's all I have to say. It's a huge change. and it's going to make it probably not an auto-include anymore, even though it's still going to be good. Alright then, artifacts have been changed, and I must admit I didn't check these, so which I probably should have. What we got? So save the artifact that determination gets whenever a monster dies, except lost souls, increase the count by 1. I think it used to count less souls. Turn end, spend 7 counters to summon the next lost soul with 1/1 base stats. Your board is full, trigger its dot effect instead. Oh, is that new? I can't remember if that's new or not. Anyway, lost soul order, yeah. Loop back to outfit. Wait. That's funny. Anyway, that's a mistake, I think. Anyway, prosperity got changed as well. Oh, did prosperity? I'm pretty sure we had a patch recently where prosperity got changed, and I forgot it did now. Effect update. Whenever you play a monster, heal 1 HP for every full gold its base cost is. Oh wait, no, I'm not thinking of prosperity. I'm thinking of the one that used to be garbage. Vitality. Prosperity. Oh, okay. I like this. So prosperity used to be whenever you play any monster that costs 5 or more, you gain 1 health. Now you can gain more than 1 health if it's especially expensive and it's only 4 gold, not 5 gold you need. I like that. And finally, Integrity's passive apparently changed, but I'm not gonna lie, I swear this is the same as it was, but then the wording of it has changed so many times that I think that it might be the same as it was at one point. However, it probably got changed at some point and now they're changing it back to how it used to be. I don't know. Either way, their passive is now, at the end of every turn, earn 1 gold for every 5 gold you spent this turn, but you can't get more than 2 gold, so off of that ability. So, yeah. Anyway, that's this mid-season patch. Yeah.